Welcome to the Futsal First Podcast, and I'm your host, Jose Galindo. The inspiration for this episode is a situation our club finds itself in now. As you may be aware, I'm the president of the Coburn Wolves Futsal Club and also currently the vice president of the Spanish Club of WA. The Coburn Wolves recently added a football department named Coburn Wolves Español FC, and by football I mean soccer, which was partially inspired to help our futsal community find the balance of playing football and futsal simultaneously. That is, coordinating training nights, keeping teams/players together, holistic player development, and so on. Coordinating two codes for families, especially through winter, can be quite difficult, so the football branch made a lot of sense. The football branch was also inspired by the need of the Spanish Club of WA, which has some excellent football facilities. 2 pitches, fully fenced off, able to host MPL games and available all year round. And of course, having fully fenced off pitch availability all year round means it's a wonderful location to host training, competitions, special events at times that other football clubs just can't do. The benefits to the Spanish Club of WA to have a cooperative and aligned football club operating at its premises makes sense also, as both organisations work together to utilise and maintain the facilities, and of course to grow the community at the Spanish Club of WA and at the Wolves. These symbiotic relationships between Coburn Wolves Futsal Club, Coburn Wolves Español Football Club and the Spanish Club of WA make a lot of sense. But it's only early days, and I thought I'd chat to someone with a bit more experience in a club that has multi-code and multi-organisation affiliations. Enter a great friend of mine, someone I would serenade on this episode if I had a singing voice, and prominent WA futsal figure Fadi Mikhael from Curtin University Football Club. We will have a chat to Fadi about his journey through life and futsal, and we will also discuss his approach to building stronger sports communities through the connection between Curtin University, the football club, and of course, their futsal club. Welcome, Fadi Mikhael, to the Futsal First Podcast.
Delighted to be here with you, Jose. I'm very impressed with your setup here. It looks like a proper studio.
Well, thank you. Kind words. Kind words, Fadi. All right. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I come from a Palestinian heritage. I grew up in the UAE in Abu Dhabi, born in Lebanon, migrated to Australia in 86, lived in Sydney from 86 to 2000, met my lovely wife Mary in 97. We lived in Sydney for a while, but we had always decided that we would raise our kids in Perth. So my daughter was born in Perth a couple of months after we moved here in the year 2000. And my son was born in 2002, and I've lived in Perth ever since. 25 wonderful years, beautiful city, beautiful state. Can't fault it.
A beautiful family.
Thank you, Jose.
Question. I've always called you Fadi, but others call you Fadi. What would you prefer?
The correct pronunciation is Fadi. Fadi is an Arabic word. It means to sacrifice oneself for others. And that's what volunteering life is. We're all volunteers to the sport of futsal. When you visit Arabic churches in Easter, a lot of the hymns have the word Fadi in them. It refers to what Jesus did and what have you. So, that's where the word comes from.
Wow, that's very deep. I've got to say, I don't know if I can sustain Fadi. So I'm gonna go with Fadi if that's all right with you.
All good, Jose.
Okay, so tell us, how did you get started into the wonderful sport of futsal?
So I I sold a business back in 2008 or 2009 to a gentleman in Willetton, and he to his wife actually, and he was coaching at Canning City Soccer Club. And he encouraged me to join the club. I had my kids were quite young back then. So both children and I went along to registration day, joined up, and I got into community football. It was actually probably closer to 2010. And from there, I actually started coaching a year later, loved it. The club put me through courses and I enjoyed that. And then I started coaching a young kid called Marley Albuquerque, who happened to be Raj Albuquerque's nephew. And Raj used to bring him to the training sessions sometimes and saw me there and invited me to attend the WA State Futsal Center, which had recently opened. Loved the setup, didn't know anything about futsal. All I knew was there was an indoor soccer component, but didn't know the rules of futsal. And I became interested. My son Benji joined up. He started playing for Braza under the guidance of Victor Brona, one of the top players and coaches in WA's history. And later on, I joined Fremantle Futsal Club as treasurer and as helping with the coaching. Luke Tidy and Glenn Sheldon, two top guys, also very knowledgeable about futsal. And the relationship grew from there.
Okay. So when did you make the move to Curtin Uni Football Club?
So I coached at Fremantle and helped, not coached, I was mostly treasurer, but I did help with the juniors a lot for a few years, for about 4 years. And then I took a break. I was helping El Abrams and Raj Albuquerque with the futsal center and with helping the clubs get organized and things. And then my daughter encouraged me to go back into coaching at university level. She was a student at UWA and they were competing in uni nationals in the Gold Coast. And I went in and coached their women's team. And I was very impressed with how UWA Sport treated uni nationals. They had big budgets to recruit and to look after their coaches. And they had coaches development programs and all sorts of things. And I was very, very impressed with the setup at UWA. And that got me back into coaching after I hadn't coached for a couple of years. And I enjoyed that a lot. I enjoyed the experience in the Gold Coast. It was very challenging coaching women at a very good level. And we went back again the year later with a stronger squad and competed even better. And then one of the men's players at UWA moved to Murdoch Uni and took me along with him. This was just before COVID. It was Jason Pepin. And at Murdoch Uni, I met a lot of enthusiastic players, both male and female, and we were preparing for uni nationals. And I think COVID hit, if I remember correctly. And around that period as well, Hessam Miz and Behrad Shervani from Curtin Futbolista Futsal Club asked me to join them and coach their club in the men's state futsal league. They had 20 players or so. In the State Futsal League, if you remember, you had to have a first team and a reserves and a draft team. And their coach had left a couple of weeks before the start of the season for family matters. And so it was a very late appointment. And I said to them, what's your setup here? Because they were training at Curtin Uni, Curtin Stadium. Curtin Stadium, Jose, there's about 40 or 45 universities around Australia. And Curtin Stadium has to be one of the top 2 or 3 venues as a stadium in the whole country in a university. It's a 40, 50, $60 million facility, state of the art. And to see the club training there was very impressive. They had a very late session, 8 till 10 on Tuesday nights. And the attraction for me of coaching them was that they had just negotiated with Curtin Football Club an amalgamation. So to be part of Curtin Football Club. Curtin Football Club has about 600 football players, 300 juniors, 300 seniors. And the futsal club with about 20 players at the time was a new addition to the football club. There was a lot of support within the committee. the football committee, especially from Payam Golestani, who is also of an Iranian background, footballista, uh, started by a group of Iranian friends. So there was that synergy there as well. And futsal is huge in Iran. Iran are number one in Asia in men and women. Well, not no longer in women, but for and I don't think in men. I think they lost both titles. But historically, Iran are top 10 in the world in men's futsal, and you'll see their women's team competing in the World Cup this year. They'll be competitive. Something like 9 million players, futsal players in Iran. So to see a club with such strong futsal heritage wanting to grow. So part of the discussion that I had with them when I was recruited to coach their men was we needed to start a women's team, start youth, start juniors, grow the relationship with the football club, and build a relationship with the university. So I stopped coaching Curtin Uni, Murdoch Uni, I should say, and I moved and built a relationship also with the Carnabies through Curtin Sport and started coaching the university team as well at Curtin Uni. And that helped us bring in new players and set up a youth team for the for Curtin Uni Football Club for the futsal department. And we also started a women's team, which was so we grew from 20 players to 40 players within a season. And now we have over 100 futsal players at the club, um, training, playing, doing all sorts of things. Uh, Payam Golestani, in particular, has been huge support. We have programs on Saturdays for the juniors, Let's Play Futsal. We have programs for men and women on Sundays, social programs at Linwood Senior High School. We have men's training on Thursdays at Kennington Leisureplex and women's training on Mondays at Kennington Leisureplex. So we have a lot of activities happening within the futsal department of Curtin Football Club.
Wow, sounds like there is a lot happening there. How have you found? So you mentioned that when you first joined, you were trying to build a relationship with the football club and the university. How have you found and that has developed throughout the years that you've been there? Has it evolved naturally, organically? Has it been more methodical or systematically?
I think the evolution has been organic. I think the key element is to create win-win scenarios for all parties. So, for example, the relationship with Curtin Sport grew from the need for them to have volunteer coaches to sending teams to nationals. It's very hard for West Australian universities to send teams to nationals because most of the time nationals are in the eastern states. It's very expensive, flights, accommodation, etc. So the students have to fork up for this. So I give a lot of credit to Justin Pierce at Curtin Uni for working really hard to recruit some of the best players he could. And when nationals was held here in WA, we won the competition. The first ever men's WA team to win uni nationals. So it was a big credit to the players that rocked up. But also it was inexpensive because it was local. The following year, we traveled to the Gold Coast to defend our title with a smaller squad. And I was really proud of the players that went all the way to the Gold Coast, paid a lot of money, had a wonderful time. And we reached the final against UTS, UTS who have, if I remember correctly, now 2 futsaroos who played in that game. And we lost 2-1, I think, from memory. Very competitive game, very close game. And I was very proud of all 10 players who put a lot of effort into traveling to defend our title. And UTS historically are the most successful university at uni nationals in both men and women. And for me, that silver medal is probably more valuable than the gold we won the previous year because it was a very good effort by all the players. So uni nationals, not a lot of people know about it for futsal. especially pre-COVID. It was a very competitive competition for futsal. Post-COVID is still a strong competition. Pre-COVID, it had Division One and Division Two, and to be in Division One was quite prestigious. When UWA initially recruited me to coach their women, they had climbed into Division One the previous year, but all of those players graduated, and it was a brand new squad. We quickly realized that our goal was to stay in Division One, and to do that, you had to finish top 10 out of 12, and we did that, and we repeated the task again the following year, and then COVID hit, and we didn't have Division One, Division Two anymore. It was just an open competition after that. But some of my most challenging coaching appointments were at Uni Nationals, for the women, for UWA, for the men, for Curtin Uni. Very, very interesting, very, very well run when they're held in the Gold Coast. You have to give Andrew Parks a big tap on the back. He really knows how to run competitions. He also runs the Gold Coast International, the most prestigious club competition in Australia. So every time Uni Nationals was held in the Gold Coast, I made sure to travel and go for whichever university that required my services, because it's very, very well run over there.
Wow. Okay. So, as you know, the theme of our episode today is to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of, in this case, futsal clubs being associated with other codes, other sporting codes, or other organisations such as universities, and in the case of the Coburn Wolves, the Spanish club, and so on. So what connections, so for Curtin to be able to compete at the uni games, what is the connection between the Curtin Uni Football Club competing in the futsal competitions and the teams that are going to the uni nationals, i.e. players? Are there limitations on players? What opportunities are there?
So there's no direct connection between the football club and the Carnabies. So Curtin Uni, their sporting teams are called the Carnabies. And once a year, all 40 or 45 universities around Australia meet at one venue and compete in about 30 different sports. It's like a mini Olympics. Usually these events are held in the eastern states, most often in the Gold Coast, which has amazing sporting facilities. It has the biggest indoor venue in Australia, which was built for the Commonwealth Games in 2016. And they host the basketball, the volleyball, the netball, and the futsal there. And it's very, very well run. So the Carnabies for Curtin Uni, whoever wants to go as students, basically they have to mobilize themselves and go. For the individual sports, they travel as individuals. For the team sports, you often need a coach. And our involvement being training at Curtin Stadium and being involved with Curtin opens up the door to obviously build the relationship with Curtin Sport. But it's not a prerequisite. And the players don't have to come from a Curtin Uni Football Club. They just have to be students at Curtin Uni. So in our first year when we won the gold medal, half our squad were not playing at Curtin Uni Football Club. They came from Fremantle Futsal Club, from South Perth, from Rockingham Cambria Cumbrae, from Murdoch Warriors, from various clubs in the State Futsal League. The second year, most of the players were from Curtin Uni Football Club. The cost involved in traveling and being able to train with me all year round helped. But we still had 2 players from South Perth. Most of the others were Curtin Uni Football Club players for that year. Yeah, so you don't have to have that, but it does help. The fact that you're there every week training, seeing familiar faces, building relationships with Curtin Sport. And like I said earlier, being part of a university gives you that avenue to, especially Curtin. Curtin there's 5 universities in Perth. 1 out of every 2 that graduates out of a university in Perth comes out of Curtin. That's how big that university is. 50,000 students. So imagine an average course is about 4 years. That means you're getting 10 or 12,000 new students every year. That influx of players, both male and female, gives you the opportunity to recruit new players all the time.
I like how you said influx of players, not students.
Did I say?
They're there for the futsal. They're not there to study.
They're there for the
We
futsal.
know this, right? So do you sit there rubbing your fingers as they're enrolling, thinking...
Orientation day is huge.
Orientation day.
Both for the football and for the futsal.
Yeah, so you're talking about 50,000 students at Curtin. That definitely gives you a huge list of players to be able to select from, right?
Correct. And we've seen in recent years an influx of players or students from Southeast Asia, where futsal is growing really, really fast. You have professional leagues now in Vietnam, in Korea, in Thailand, in Japan, in Indonesia, Malaysia. Professional futsal leagues where players are paid to play, where the games are live streamed on the equivalent of Foxtel over here, on Star TV in Malaysia, on, even places like Bhutan and Brunei now have proper futsal leagues, national leagues. And when those students come to study in Australia, they're looking for the equivalent here. And having them at Curtin Uni is an easy access to recruiting them into our club.
Now, so I know Curtin Uni Football Club has a large junior base. Is there a relationship between the football and the futsal departments at Curtin University?
So one of the things that we've been able to achieve in the last couple of years in particular is grow the junior base for the futsal at Curtin Football Club. And one of the ways we've done that is promoting to the public in general, but also promoting from within. And Paim Golestani has been instrumental in doing this because he's been on the committee for Curtin Football Club for close to a decade now and a big, big supporter of the futsal operations. And what we've done, especially this year, is created a Football 365 program where we encourage the juniors at the club to play, to remain with the club all year round. So football, historically in Australia, is a winter sport. It's played between the months of April and September. And kids generally outside of those months are doing summer sports, whether it's cricket, tennis, or whatever. So the idea of Football 365 at Curtin Football Club is to keep the kids engaged with the club all year round. So in terms 4 and 1, we encourage them to do futsal at the club. And we see a huge influx in numbers. So we have a Let's Play Futsal program on Saturday mornings that runs out of George Burnett Leisure Centre. In terms 2 and 3, when football season is on, we get about 20 to 30 registrations for the terms. In terms 1 and 4, we get somewhere between 50 and 60 registrations. So it's really packed. And we have 3 different hours, 3 different setups. And we now have a relationship with Linwood Senior High School, which is a soccer school. And we now have access to their brand new gym. So we can grow our programs there because there's a limit. As you know, Jose, from your search for indoor space to train, it's very, very hard to find courts in Perth. And that's stunted our growth at Curtin Football Club for the futsal operations because there's no space. And now we have a relationship with Linwood Senior High School. We can grow our futsal operations there and manage to grow our numbers even more than we are now.
Wow, sounds like you've got some great programs underway, and this is another example of how your club has not only been associated or connected with, say, other sporting codes and a university, but now you've just mentioned Linwood Senior High School.
Correct.
That's to assist with your court availability. And have you found, from a player point of view, has it assisted with being able to recruit more players, strengthen your teams?
Absolutely. So we had the good fortune of meeting, Payam and I, we had the good fortune of meeting Tony Campbell, who runs the football program at the school for the boys. at a Macron event at a Perth Glory game. And we spoke for hours. And we saw a lot of synergies between what he's doing and what we can offer, especially as volunteers, as a club, as a not for profit club. Our programs are very inexpensive and accessible to the students there. And in fact, our most successful team in the State Futsal League, our under 14 side, half of them are students from Linwood Senior High School, which has a football program for year 7s to year 10s with about 100 boys and 50 girls in those programs. So we're slowly starting to offer. Well, first of all, we're taking more and more court space on the weekends and weeknights, and soon we will start offering programs to those students, inexpensive programs, again because we're volunteers, and hopefully we will show these kids who are most likely playing football at various clubs in WA the opportunity to play futsal with Courtenay Football Club, which Football West allows anyway, because you can play football at a club and futsal at a different club within the rules. So you should see a stronger curtain for the upcoming JSFL and hopefully F League as well.
So focusing on the player aspect after your association with Linwood Senior High School, how do you find that association between Curtin and Linwood, how does that affect the player retention? Like, do you find that the players that do go to Linwood are they're keener to come to Curtin, they're more susceptible to stay?
Well, it's a new relationship. It's still building. So I can answer that maybe in 12 months. But in terms of our current setup where we're not competing all year round, obviously some players want to play all year round, and that is a challenging part. We're looking at starting our own domestic league in term 3 out of Linwood High School on Saturdays, similar to what Cumbre have done out of their venue in Port Kennedy on Friday nights. We're looking at that, and we have the staff to manage that. It's just a question of organization and core hire. Other than that, we're also looking at Football West and the State Futsal League also driving their own programs. So Football West with F League, State Futsal League with the JSFL being an expanded competition again this year in terms 4-1. So we're keeping our eyes open and our ears open for all those opportunities.
So Curtin were involved in the MPLW a few seasons ago, 2022 potentially being, I think that was their last year. Was it beneficial for the women's futsal team having a connection to the MPLW side?
It was actually. We started our women's team for futsal in the Women's State Futsal League with 5 youth players from the NPLW program who were skillful players, who some of them joined our draft team, some of them joined our first team. So they were instrumental in helping us build a squad of about 18 to 20 girls that competed in our first WSFL. We struggled in the WSFL itself. We competed well in the draft league from memory. It was a while back, this. But definitely MPLW was helpful. It was difficult for Curtin Uni Football Club being in MPLW without having that junior structure for the girls. It was quite challenging for 2 or 3 years. But in terms of futsal operations, it was very helpful, yes.
There's a very good reason I asked that question, Fadi. So at the Coburn Wolves, part of long-term vision is to have women's teams competing in the Football West football leagues, with the end goal being to be competing in the MPLW. Reason being that we would then be able to offer that to our players. We've got quite a few MPLW players that play at the Coburn Wolves in the futsal division. and being able to have a football club and a futsal club competing at the highest levels would then allow us to be able to offer both codes to the players and then be able to synergize, be able to coordinate training sessions, manage workload, and all the advantages that would come with being able to schedule training sessions and game days so that they don't clash, et cetera, rather than trying to work against or trying to find compromises with football clubs and schedules. Because as you know, futsal players play at various clubs. It's not that they're at one club, they're at various clubs. So trying to synchronize and get those right, very, very difficult. So down the line, that's something that we want to have in place. It's difficult because obviously you've got to get it started and then work your way up to MPLW and have all the pathways. So yes, that's definitely the long-term plan for the Coburn Wolves. It's something that we're aiming for, but as you know, it takes resources and it takes time. And part of those resources I will move on to for you. So your associations with the schools and other codes have brought you court space, as you mentioned. They've brought you players. They've brought opportunities. How, for me, a critical resource in the growth of any club is good coaches. So have any of those relationships provided any coaching resources to be able to continue building?
Curtin Football Club being a community club, a lot of the coaches are parent coaches. A few of those have also transferred to the futsal as well. So we've managed to, in our under 10s, in our under 12s, bring in coaches who are parent coaches who have learned the sport of futsal. Some of them knew the sport already. And we've also done internal coaching sessions as well. And we've also offered coaching roles to our senior players, both men and women, to help with the juniors as well. We have our women's goalkeeper now helping with our under 8s, etc. So coaching is a big, big thing. Court space is a big, big thing. A lot of it requires a lot of planning, as you know, Jose. And by the way, credit to Coburn Wolves with what you've done with the Spanish club and with your expansion into football. It's long overdue for the Spanish club to have football operations again. Historically, they were there, and it's great to have them back again. And I think for the sustainability of futsal clubs, you need to have your players with you all year round. It creates a win-win for everybody. It creates a win for the player, doesn't have to keep jumping. It creates a win for the club, player retention all year round. And it creates a win for the sport of football and futsal. Futsal, there's two types of views on futsal, as a standalone sport and as a development tool for football. Even us futsal enthusiasts, we have to accept that futsal is also seen as a development tool for football. We have to encourage that. We have to embrace that. I'm seeing some of my juniors who have been with me now for over a year and a half. They're excelling in the football department at the club, the ones that play football at Kearney Football Club. And every year, every summer, they're bringing in more and more players from the football department into futsal because the parents and the coaches are seeing the improvement in those kids. And the coaches are coming across too and bringing their own kids and learning the sport of futsal. And I find that as a win-win for both, for football and for futsal. The more we embrace that, the more the sport will grow. Not just as a standalone sport, but also as a development tool for football. People talk about Messi, Ronaldo, Pele. They all started playing futsal growing up. There's multiple videos on Messi back in Argentina as a kid playing futsal matches. Ronaldinho still plays futsal today. He was in the Indian Premier League a couple of years ago competing in a futsal competition. So,
well, you just have to look at the most successful countries in the world at the moment. The World Cup winners, European Cup winners, etc. They're all huge futsal nations.
Absolutely.
You look at France, you look at Argentina, you look at Brazil, look at Spain. They're all huge into futsal. So look, I do agree with you. Futsal is obviously a development. It can be a development tool for football. I look at all sports. They can all develop and help each other. You know, playing basketball can be beneficial for futsal. Playing basketball can be beneficial for football. Playing chess can be beneficial. So I look at everything. I look at futsal as a standalone sport, but I completely understand that, yes, it has major benefits to anyone that's going to play football in terms of their decision making, their touches, working in confined spaces, and all the benefits. Personally, I don't sell it as that. I never mention that. It's not why I'm involved in futsal, but I understand that that's a huge part of it. Football is it's a big brother, right? There's a lot of similarities in the sports. You're kicking the ball with your feet, right? So I understand that.
A lot of people don't realize, Jose, that FIFA administers 3 sports. FIFA is not just football. FIFA administers football, futsal, and beach soccer. And futsal is the official small-sided game for FIFA. So you hear about all these competitions around the world and what PK is doing with that 7-a-side thingy and 6-a-side and arena football in the US and all that. If people just stuck to the official FIFA futsal domain, futsal would be a much, much bigger sport than it is now. Okay. It is still big with men. The men's World Cup for futsal is huge. And it's absolutely amazing that we're getting the Women's World Cup now for the first time this year in the Philippines, which hopefully will be a fantastic tournament. So yeah, it's there's a huge opportunities for futsal, both as standalone and as a development tool.
Okay, we definitely will be getting back to the World Cup at a later stage. Back into coaching. I'm a huge advocate for coach education, and you mentioned that Curtin runs some programs for their coaches to educate them. So do you find futsal coaches hard to acquire?
I think with where we are now as a society, Jose, you're finding less and less volunteers. It used to be a lot easier for parents to volunteer and this and that. Now it's getting more and more difficult. We're in the I age: iPhone, iPad, iPod, I this and that, and the concept of volunteering is not as predominant as before. And this is where you need to build that community aspect of the club. When I reach out to parents, they're always happy to step up. When I reach out to senior players, I always get volunteers. The question is consistency and having that product there for them to manage. And I think if you have that culture within your club, you will always find the right people. And I think it's fantastic that Football West and the FFA are now looking at WA and putting courses in WA to upskill those coaches, because we need that. We need that. Previously, you're the best example of this. You traveled all the way to Melbourne to get your futsal qualifications. How many people can do that? How many people have the time to do that? So credit to you for doing that all those years ago. And I'm sure it has benefited you and your club in your player development and your coaching development. So who's interviewing who here?
Well, I'm actually going to delve into your coaching. But before we do that, look, what I've found is, because I was very heavily involved in football previously, and what I've seen, and with my son still playing football/soccer in the NPL under 18s, when it comes to asking parents to coach football, you always find volunteers. I've always found it a lot easier. There's always been a parent that's more than willing to step up and take those roles. However, when it comes to futsal coaching, you can see there's a lot more hesitation from the parents. It's like football, they seem to be more confident with, whereas futsal, I personally have always found everyone's very standoffish, which tells me they understand it is a different game. There's a lot to learn. As simple as it can be, it can also be very difficult. So my personal experience has been, it's always been a little bit harder to find futsal coaches Not because they don't love the game. They love the game. Parents love the game. The excitement's there, but just stepping up to take that next step in coaching. I've always personally found it a little bit more difficult when it comes to futsal rather than football.
Well, historically, I mean, we both started at Fremantle Futsal Club with Luke Tidy. And historically, if you remember, we always encouraged the senior players to take up the coaching roles with the juniors, which was a lot easier to do because they're learning from one source and they're passing on the knowledge to the younger kids. And I agree with you. That's how the trajectory was. It probably still is. I mean, I still do that or try to do that at Curtin. But I still feel a lot of that hesitancy you're talking about comes from, in my opinion, two things. One, the football culture that's associated with futsal. And two, a lot of parents see futsal as their break from football. You know, especially if they're doing futsal in the summer and football in the winter. This is my time to rest as a parent. The parent coaches I'm talking about.
I must have missed that memo at the time.
How many months in the year, Jose? 12? You're coaching 13 months of the year.
Exactly. Yep.
I feel that, and I take this from basketball. I mean, a lot of people see futsal as indoor soccer. I see it more as basketball with feet. And incidentally, futsal was created back in the 30s in Uruguay by an American coach who was coaching a basketball team in Uruguay. And he created the rules for futsal in the off season for his basketball players to keep them active. So futsal is, for me, the movement of the players, the lateral movement, the checking, the blocking is more basketball with feet. It's the interchanges, the turnovers, the counterattacks, the set plays.
Number of players on the court.
How you run the substitutions, etc. So the coach is a lot more involved, and some parent coaches for football might also find that a bit challenging. That the fact that the coach is a lot more involved in the game of futsal than he or she would be in a game of football. But for me, I've always enjoyed coaching futsal a lot more than football. I find myself more in the game, more affecting the game. And I think if more parents would embrace it, they will enjoy it too. They will enjoy it. Coaches' education is a challenging part. There's not a lot out there. It's great that there's a course next week here in WA in Port Kennedy, and it's great to see Football Australia and Football West invest in this part of the game.
Yeah, coach education is definitely something that we can see is on the up at the moment. Football West are really starting to put some courses out there, and the fact that Football Australia are running a AFC Level 1 course, like you mentioned, I had to fly to Melbourne. Absolutely fantastic experience for me, by the way, and I'll talk to anyone about that. It was absolutely brilliant. The networking and the learning that happens in that very compacted 6 days at the time. Yeah, so coach education's huge. So great to see that they are ramping that up now. But we're getting back to coaching for you, Fadi. So you do a lot of coaching. So let's delve into that. So when did you first coach, your very first moment of coaching, and what's been your pathway, and how many teams are you coaching now?
My first moment of coaching was probably Canning City Soccer Club under 9s, I think, back in 2010, probably, or 2011. That was a long time ago, Jose, before you were born.
oh, geez, thank you. Wow.
Before Tristan was born, maybe.
2011. No, Tristan was 2008.
Fair enough. And my first coaching in futsal was under Luke Tidy at Fremantle Futsal Club. I think I looked after the women for a little while. I helped with the men, then with the juniors. But one of my most memorable trips was to Melbourne. Peter Parthamos from Futsal Oz invited 2 world-class coaches Venancio Lopez, who was the Spanish national coach when they last won the World Cup. Tiago Polido, who later on went on to coach a lot of teams in Asia, Portuguese coach, very good coach. And several of us here in WA went across. Nesta Fonseca, Victor Brona, El Abrahams, Luke Tidy, myself. And we learned so much from that trip, from those two brilliant coaches. And later on, Rob Varela, who was the Australian Futsal Roost coach, came to Perth and did some clinics in Perth, invited by Pro Futsal at the time. And Massimiliano Bellarti, the Italian national coach, did an online program, if you remember. I think you were part of that.
Yes, I was a part of that.
That was very educational during COVID. So it was all online. I think Roberto Boy helped bring that together at the time. So many world-class coaches. The beauty of futsal, I find, Jose, is it's such a small community. Everyone's interconnected. Like, we had the good fortune to go to Chicago to a Barcelona youth camp. And who do we run into in Chicago? Zego, the founder of the 4-0, Brazilian Zego, who happened to be coaching in Chicago at the same venue that we popped up at. And, he's happy to chat. He's happy to talk. He's happy to, it's like running into Mario Zagallo from the 1970 Brazil team. Yeah. It was a big moment. Yeah. Memorable moment. So it's a small community, futsal.
And you're coaching. So I've had the pleasure of coaching against you many times. So you're coaching at the moment juniors, women's. Are you coaching the men's also?
So the men's team that's participating in the SFL on Fridays is self-coached at the moment. Our men's captain, Muzi, is working after that. I run most of the training sessions. In our off-season, we just play games. I also run the Let's Play Futsal program on Saturday mornings with help from some of my seniors and some of the parents. So I'm putting in a lot of hours. We also started community programs now on Sundays. So 4 till 5 p.m. at Linwood High School. We have a women's session, mostly mums. We do some training and games. And 5 till 7 p.m. we have about 20 or 25 men that rock up and just play games. That's the community part of our program. So we're opening up a lot of things for the community and growing the sport to the community. And from that, we also recruit some of the new, stronger players into our men's and women's setups. So there's a theme there of mixing community with elite and trying to offer both to the public to attract as many players to the sport of futsal as possible. It's a beautiful sport, Jose. More people should be playing it.
It is a beautiful sport. You're doing a great job there to create the pathways and opportunities and make it very accessible, by the sounds of it, to beginners.
Accessible requires court space. That's all you need.
Yep.
And volunteers, obviously.
I was going to say, you definitely have played a massive part in introducing a lot of players, a lot of people that I know in particular to futsal. Your passion for the game and the time and energy you put into it. Would you say that is, if you had to write a vision and philosophy for your coaching, how would you write it? What would you include?
Well, the first thing is you have to build a love for the sport. That's the first thing. So in my chats, in my team chats, I'm often sharing videos from men's games, from women's games, from whether it's set play here or set play there, or a goal conceded, and I'll ask the players, why did that go in? And there'll be some engagement online. And I share these also in my junior chats with the parents, with the kids. So you got to build the love of the sport into the player first. Second, you have to give them as many touches as possible. Players come to play, whether it's football, futsal, baseball, basketball, whatever, to have fun. And They're having fun if they're touching the ball. They have to be on the ball. And third, you have to build that community spirit. You have to. You have to. They have to become friends. I see some of the kids, especially the juniors, building strong relationships with each other. They come, they talk, they bond, they push each other on the court, they compete. Yeah, you want to see that. Okay, you want to see that. You want to see those relationships being built. But elementary, it's got to be a love for the sport. And the biggest benefit of that is when you see a kid that you coached 10 or 15 years ago still playing the sport today. Doesn't matter if they're playing at an elite level or at a community level. I don't care. As long as they're still being active. People underestimate the value of sport for mental health, for camaraderie, for building friendships, for building. I see it with my kids. My daughter, her best friends are her tennis buddies from uni nationals. My son, his closest friends are his futsal friends, his football friends, closer than his school friends. Yeah, sport is so crucial to building those bonds, those relationships, those friendships. Yeah, so a lot of things. But first and foremost, as a coach, you have to instill that love for the sport in the kids or adults that you're coaching.
And no one does it better than you, Fadi, I've got to say.
A lot of people do it better than I do.
Wow. You definitely put up a good argument. I mean, we talk about your coaching and the effort you put in behind the scenes. But I've got to say, one of my favourite commentators of all time was listening to the smooth tones of Fadi Mikhael. Did you enjoy your time commentating the State Futsal League games, the SFL games?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of fun. Commentary is comes natural. I find myself sitting at home watching futsal games and commentating on them.
Maybe you can do a work from home job commentating futsal games. That could be a new thing.
Including football games too these days. Yeah. No, look, the commentator of any sport has to liven up that sport to the viewer. And it's so important to know the stats, to know the players, to know how to pronounce the names. Goodness.
Yes.
Some of the names are. Futsal is a worldwide sport. You have people from all over the world playing futsal.
And I think commentators have to be true to themselves too. Sometimes you hear a commentator and you're just like, you're overdoing it, trying too hard, or it's just natural. Just be yourself, and people love listening.
Absolutely.
So a lot of people don't know this, but you're a very, very competent futsal goalkeeper. Do you miss playing in goals, or do you still play in goals at some level?
Jose, I haven't played at any level goalkeeping for years. My eyesight is going, my weight is ballooning. my reactions are slower than ever. I often stand in goals during the women's sessions, and sometimes in the men's sessions when we need numbers. But I avoid it like the plague these days. It's getting harder and harder. The goalkeeper, there's two specialized positions on a futsal court. Futsal pitch, as some people use the terminology. The goalkeeper and the target. If you're playing 3-1, that is the target. And I think the goalkeeper in a game of futsal is so underrated. So underrated. Higuita is for me still the best goalkeeper in the world. Not necessarily because of his saves, but because of the way he dictates the play and comes out of his D and starts most of the attacks. So for me, a goalkeeper in futsal is instrumental, and a good goalie can give you such a huge advantage. Playing as a fly keeper, playing as lots of things. I think every team I've built, I've started with the goalkeeper first. You have to have a good goalkeeper who communicates well, who moves well, who is a leader from within, and you build a team from there. It's beautiful.
I totally agree. I also believe there has to be some degree of crazy
Oh, absolutely.
to be a goalkeeper.
Absolutely.
I always liken it to, if we were to create a work situation and say, right, you stand there and we're going to kick balls at you at 70, 80, 90 kilometers per hour, right? WorkSafe would come and shut us down. Like you'd be on the news, right? Your business would be closed. You'd be on, and here we are, people doing it voluntarily without warming up at training sessions, in games.
And futsal balls are hard, Jose.
Futsal balls are hard.
They're harder than footballs.
I've seen so many bruises on goalkeepers. I just think there has to be some degree of crazy. Do you have that degree of crazy?
100%. 100%. 100%. I grew up as a goalkeeper, Jose. In the UAE, I was quite good as a junior. And then over one summer, I lost my sight. I couldn't see the ball anymore. And I didn't notice. And I went from one of the top goalkeepers in the state to the third ranked goalkeeper in my school, all over a period of a few months. And then when we found out what the issue was, that I couldn't see anymore, I needed glasses, I couldn't play anymore. Back then, there weren't contacts. You couldn't play as a goalkeeper with glasses. So I didn't play for about 20 years until I did an eye operation here in Australia and started playing again, and absolutely loved being involved in the sport of football back then and now futsal, just to get those competitive vibes again and camaraderie and all of that, and building new friends and what have you. So it's not just about playing, it's about building those relationships as well.
That would have had a huge impact on you, having to stop something that you were so good at.
Oh, absolutely. Something that I loved, something that I was good at. Dents your confidence as well. It dents your friendships, because, your close mates, you're not with them anymore, 2-3 times a week training, etc. So it had a big effect.
We can make up for it now, though.
Oh, I'm making up for it every day.
All right, now.
But I can tell you the reflexes aren't there anymore.
Well, we'll have to test that after we finish this episode.
What, with your powerful left foot? No, thank you.
Well, yes. I don't know how much power is left in it. So now going back to the Curtin Uni Football Club, what are the benefits to the futsal club being connected to the university?
Well, we're primarily connected to the University Football Club. We're not primarily connected to the university as such, other than we held training sessions there.
Obviously, we've touched on a lot of this, but
Yeah.
anything in particular?
Well, administration, longevity, credibility. A lot of futsal clubs come and go and they disappear in a heartbeat when the organizer leaves. But if you're part of a bigger organization, sustainability is so crucial. So crucial. You've seen in recent years a lot of futsal clubs just disappear. You've seen some amalgamate with other clubs to help with this. At the end of the day, you need volunteers. To run any sporting organization, you need those volunteers. You need that committee. And you find that easier to be when you're part of a bigger group, when you're part of a football club. People don't realize 3 of the most successful futsal clubs in the world are FC Barcelona, Sporting Lisbon, and Benfica. They're football clubs. Barcelona themselves have 5 sports. Barcelona have a basketball team, football, futsal, all in the Camp Nou. European handball, and I can't remember the 5th one now. Something to do with hockey, roller hockey, I think.
Yeah.
So they're part of 5 sports. They administer 5 sports of FC Barcelona. A lot of people don't know that. When you visit the Camp Nou, you can sometimes watch a futsal game followed by a Champions League game on the same day. You paid 2 different tickets. So
You're talking about my favourite club, Fadi, so I'm just happy to hear you keep mentioning their name.
and now with the redevelopments at the Camp Nou, it'll be really exciting to go back for a visit.
That it will be. So that's you're right. A lot of clubs have disappeared over the years, and it takes a lot more than a. We mentioned we spoke about resources such as coaches, players, court space, equipment, etc. But there's a lot of administration that goes on in the background. So, would you say that's a huge benefit to the club being
Yep.
part of something bigger, and the credibility? I mean, you can't underestimate the credibility of being connected to Curtin University.
Absolutely. I mean, Curtin University Football Club has a very experienced committee, both in the seniors and juniors departments. Has a an amazing facility out of both Edinburgh Oval at Curtin Uni and Raphael Park for the juniors at Vic Park, with a clubhouse in both, canteens, etc. And uh, just the Stack app alone that is used by Curtin Football Club. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It provides a website. It provides payment portals for the programs you want to create, all sorts of things, reporting, etc. So, just from an administration perspective, and from a management and volunteers, and all of that put together, it for me is a no-brainer for any futsal club to be part of a football club. As long as you can create that synergy and win-win for both. The futsal has to contribute to the football, and the football has to contribute to the futsal. It can't be just one winning and the other losing. It's got to be a win-win for both
For it to be sustainable.
to be sustainable. Absolutely.
That's the key word, isn't it? There's also things to consider, such as shared social media platforms, merchandise, club policies, shared visions, and so on. Another important facet I've found is the networking. More reach to players, volunteers, and connections that can assist the club. A recent example I can provide is one of our football parents runs a merchandise company, and we've got an arrangement in place that is beneficial for both parties, and we're able to distribute his products club wide. This is a resource that we may not, this is an opportunity that we may not have had if we had not extended into other branches, if we hadn't grown the club.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so there's some of the advantages. Now, what would you say are any potential disadvantages?
Well, one of the biggest ones is control. You have to run everything, budgets, etc., by the committee. You have to run basically control. You're part of a bigger organization. There's methods and procedures to everything. You got to budget everything. You have to get approval for everything. For example, the latest State Futsal League competition on Friday nights at Port Kennedy, we had to get the budgets approved by the committee. We had to organize the uniforms, etc. So all of that is part of a bigger process than just one person making a decision.
So you would be losing some degree of control, which is understandable. But to what extent, sort of, is there micromanagement happening? At what levels?
No,
do you
no,
lose
there shouldn't be
control?
any micromanagement happening. It's just the overall picture. Macro management, I would say. But micromanagement, each department at a football club is in charge of its own. The juniors have their own coordinators, the seniors have their own coordinators. You have the amateurs, the Metro, the State League. Kearney Football Club this year, I don't know if you're familiar, for the first time ever are in State League Division 1 in the football, which is a lot more challenging, a lot more exciting, a lot more opportunities for the players to grow, for the coaches to grow, for the recruitment, etc. So a lot more eyes are on Curtin Football Club this year than ever before, especially participating in State League Division 1. So so yeah, every department has its own. There's macro management from the committee, but every department manages its own self.
Okay, I'm going to ask this question. Uniforms, are there any guidelines, restrictions? Do you have free choice?
So this is the first competition ever that we're actually wearing a complete curtain kit, Curtain Football Club kit, from shirts to shorts to socks, the orange and black socks. So
And what brought that about?
um, well, we're continuing to grow within the football club, to manage our resources within the football club, to be a part of the football club. It's a conscious decision that every season we're trying more and more to be incorporated. I want to show you a photo just to prove what I'm saying, because I think it's exciting. I love the curtain socks. It was
No, I've seen the photo. You've sent the photo to me, which I'll be using that as
Oh, I did send it to you. Okay,
to advertise episode 3.
perfect.
It's actually a very nice.
This one.
That's the one.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
it's a lovely kit.
Good.
So, what brought that about? Was that a decision?
It was actually a request from the committee that we finally wear full curtain kit. And it's not like we have hesitated to do that. It's just access, because most of our competitions are in the football off season, and the clubhouse isn't necessarily open to get those shorts and socks, but they are available at Armando's. So we just told the senior players, go and get them from there. To play this season, you have to be full. We'll provide you the shirts. You got to buy your own shorts and socks. And they all went and did it.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Good.
credit to the senior players.
All right. So, Curtin, you participated in the last SFL, or in every SFL, and you're now in this current SFL, State Futsal League of WA. You also competed in the F League, which is the Football West F League 2024. And Curtin was one of the few clubs that was in the men's division, the women's division, and the youth. Tell us about that.
Well, Coburn Wolves too were in
Well, yes.
all 3 as well. Credit to you. Oh, we loved it. We loved it from a sense that it's exciting to see Football West going into this domain, and it's exciting to see a longer season being planned this year in 2025. It would be fantastic to see more clubs participating in F League. I think the home and away concept is long overdue for the sport of futsal. Everyone looks at futsal. I'm not going to say everyone, but a lot of people look at futsal as, okay, I'm doing it in the off season of football, and I just want to do it out of one venue because for me it's a social sport. But how do clubs grow if they don't have their own facilities? How do clubs grow if they don't have their own communities? If you're all playing out of one venue, as we used to do out of Bibra Lake, as our other competitions are run out of one venue, how are the clubs supposed to grow if you're all just grabbing the same players, the same pool of players from each other? Ideally, you want every club to have their own home. Credit to what Cumbre have done in Port Kennedy, building a beautiful facility with state-of-the-art flooring. Everything about that facility is fantastic. Credit to South Perth for their relationship with Lakeland Senior High School and having their own venue there. We're doing something similar at Curtin Football Club. We found it very difficult at Curtin Stadium because obviously they rely on events on the weekends. They get a lot of rent from events. It was very hard for us to access courts on the weekends when most of the games are played. So having that relationship, this new relationship with Linwood Senior High School, provides us with courts for the weekends. We hosted our JSFL games there this year very successfully, I thought. It was a really nice environment for the parents, for the kids. Next year, we're getting some grants with the help of the school to actually be able to provide food when we host games.
So the JSFL is the Junior State Futsal League.
Correct. The Junior State Futsal League for Curtin Football Club will continue to be hosted out of Linwood Senior High School. The seniors, we're still in discussions with Curtin Stadium to get us a bigger court because we need a 40 by 20 court for the seniors. But also Linwood Senior High School have shown an appetite to making the lines wider and longer. So we might be able to host out of there. But for me, it's critical that the growth of F League continues with a longer season, home and away, clubs that actually have homes entering the F League competition. And I think it's exciting to play in different size courts, in different venues, on different flooring. It makes the sport. Why do we accept it for basketball, for cricket, for AFL, for football, but we want something different for futsal? That's not how clubs grow. You have to have your own home. You have to build your own identity, your own community, and bring the juniors to support the seniors, etc. And you know, in my opinion, the best way to do that is for each club to have their own venue, and it doesn't have to be. It can be as magnificent as what Cumbre have done in Port Kennedy, or it can be as small as a community center or a school, as long as it's your home and you brand it as such.
What criteria does a league or competition have to meet for Curtin to enter?
Very good question, Jose. I get asked this probably on a weekly basis.
Well, just tell them to listen to this episode of the podcast so you don't have to keep repeating the answer.
For me, Jose, Football Australia and each of the federations once a year publish their registration numbers. They publish their football, their futsal, maybe even beach soccer. I don't know if they do or don't for beach soccer. And for me, we are only given the respect that we deserve when we are registered with the federation. So you have to have player registrations. You have to pay that small fee to be counted as a number. And the FFA and Football West allow players to play football for one club and futsal for another. But you got to be registered. You have to count as a number so that the federation allocates more funding and more resources to the sport of futsal. Otherwise, we're just competing in social competitions, as far as I'm concerned, which is still fine. I don't begrudge my players playing in any social competition. But if they want to play for me, if they want to play for Curtin, Curtin plays in Football West affiliated competitions.
Fair enough. So, your son, Fadi Mikhael, very talented player, plays for South Perth Futsal Club, South Perth Alliance Futsal Club. Are there any father-son rivalries?
There's plenty of father-son rivalries, Jose. There are in every sport. Benji, to his credit, is a semi-professional player now. Has been for a few years. Gets paid to play. Credit to him. And I can't afford him. But he does. He is actually playing for Curtin in the SFL. He had his first game last weekend. And there's two types of parent coaches, Jose. There's the type that growing up, the parent that gives his or her child, more minutes than other kids, keeps them on the pitch, thinks that they can do no wrong. That type of parent coach gets disliked by the other parents. And there's the other type of parent coach that is harsher on their kid than the other kids, gives their kid less playing time, brings them off every time they make a mistake, explains the error, brings them back on, of course. And sometimes the kid resents their parent for that. But ultimately, in my opinion, they become a better player and a better person. And most of the other parents feel sorry for that kid. And that is the parent coach that I was. I was harder on Benji than the other kids because I felt that he had a lot more to offer. And to his credit, he took everything I told him growing up. But I've never actually coached him in futsal. He's always, when I was at Fremantle Futsal Club, he had already started with Braza Jinga, and I never took him away from Victor Bronner, who is an amazing coach, and AJ Martino as well, who was there at the time. And Benji on his own made the decision to move to Fremantle when I had stopped coaching, because as he was going through the age groups with Braza, there was a year where he was split from his teammates just because of the age, nothing else, like the year of birth. And he found himself with a group of players that he wasn't friends with. And a lot of his friends were at Fremantle because I had recruited them from Canning, where he had started. So he moved on his own to Fremantle and worked under some amazing coaches there too, including, in my opinion, one of the best coaches in WA, Luke Tidy. Yeah, credit to him that he's continued to pursue futsal. He did play football at Curtin Football Club last year as well in the State League Div 2. So he hasn't played football for many, many years, and he decided to go back to football last year. This year now he's not a student anymore. He's working. He's FIFO, so I think he's just focusing on futsal. And yeah, as long as he's enjoying himself, he's learning. He has a lot of potential, this young man. And if he wants to pursue it at a higher level, I'll be there as his number one fan.
Even if he scores against Curtin?
Oh, he's scored many times against Curtin.
Do you feel like grounding him or punishing him if he assists or scores a goal?
I can't do that, Jose. He's an adult now.
Fair enough. Okay, so we've spoken about Curtin University Football Club and its connections with Linwood Senior High School, with the futsal. We've mentioned how Coburn Wolves Futsal Club have now got the football department. They've also got the connection to the Spanish club. We see Perth AFC started as a futsal club, have grown into a football club. We've seen Mum FC is a football club, obviously connected with Murdoch University, and there are more examples, including UWA, now with the branching of the out into football, and they're doing quite well. What advice or recommendations would you pass on to the decision makers of any of these organisations, whether it be a football club or a futsal club or a not-for-profit organisation or a university? What advice would you give them in terms of adding another branch or another code of sport to their organisation?
I think the first advice would be begin with the end in mind. Determine what's your why. Why are you doing what you do? The biggest challenge we find as sports administrators is player retention. Player retention is the most challenging part, in my opinion, and growing your club. And for me, the synergy between football and futsal is plain to see, for everyone to see. Yes, we need the Federation and Football West to be more active in this domain and encouraging those partnerships more and more. But it's also up to the clubs, especially the football clubs, to pursue this. And as a football club, my first priority is player retention. And what better way to retain a player than to offer them programs all year round? Not easy to do for football because you don't have access to your pitches in the summer. They're usually being used for cricket or t-ball or other sports. But if you have a futsal department, it's much easier to keep them involved, keep them engaged, and keep them active during those summer months in futsal. And they will likely come back to you in the winter as stronger players because they've had 6 or 7 times more touches on the ball than they would in a football game. They would have practiced with a smaller, heavier ball, so they're keeping the ball on the ground. They're moving it faster. Their first touch has improved. Their shooting has improved. The shooting power has improved. Their technique has improved. They've included all these new skills that didn't have in football, like toe poking, like rolling a ball, like shuffling,
Decision making.
decision making. Yeah. First touch. So many skills transferable from futsal to football. And but again, it all to me comes down to growing your numbers and player retention, and obviously player development too.
National teams, men's and women's, are up and running. Thoughts on the pathways, the opportunities?
Exciting time for futsal in Australia, to be honest, Jose. Our men's team, Miles Downey, men's coach, Miles Downey now women's coach as well. Men's team probably disappointed a bit, but fantastic to see Tyler Garner representing WA in the men's. So exciting to see the women's finally having a women's national team and two players from WA, Mariana Tebane and Zoe Spadano, Coburn Wolves own Mariana Tebane. So you should be very proud of that.
Extremely proud. Yep.
And I thought both players, especially Mariana, did really well at the Asian championships. We're new in the women's domain, and to be honest, most of the Asian teams are new except Thailand, Japan, and Iran. But it's really, really exciting. I think the opportunity for growth in futsal in the women's is huge in Australia. And I think we can easily break into the top 10 in the world because we have such a strong women's sporting culture in this country. It's much easier for us to break into the top 10 in women's futsal than it will ever be in men's futsal. So if the FA can put in a bit more resources into the women, we will see success much faster. And I think credit to you, Jose, for taking a women's team to nationals for the first time, as long as I can remember at least, from WA, and competing so well and reaching the semis. You know, it's much harder for us to travel as state teams from WA to the eastern states. The costs are prohibitive for the players. The costs are prohibitive for the organizers, for the coaches, for the Football West. Credit to Football West for all they do as well. I really, really am excited about women's futsal in Australia and the fact that we have a national team. It also provides a pathway for all the girls here to see how well Mariana and Zoe are doing. And Zoe spending 2 years in Italy as a professional futsal player. The women's league in Italy is probably one of the best competitions in the world for women's futsal. So credit to Zoe starting in a youth competition and then progressing to the first team there in Italy. So all of these things, and I think you have a player who's now representing the Philippines as well.
Correct, and she'll be at the World Cup later this year
Because they're the
Judy
host.
Connolly.
Because they're the host. So credit to her as well and to her federation. Really, really exciting times, Jose, for women's futsal. I think it all comes back to resources and planning. And if the FA can have that vision of what the Matildas have accomplished in Australia, we can, in my opinion, easily get there and a lot faster in the women's national team. We have the players. They just need the support of the federation and some funding.
Totally agree. If you could wave a magic wand, where would you love to see futsal in the near future?
In Australia, you mean?
Yes.
I'd love to see our men's team in the top 20 and our women's team in the top 10. I think we have the quality of players, but we need a national league. And I can't see a national league at all happening anytime soon. It's with what's happening with the A-League at the moment and the financial struggles they're going through, it's very hard to see a national futsal league. What I can see, however, is a university futsal league. A lot of people listening to this podcast will be unaware that there's been a university basketball league running in Australia for the past 5 years. Since the end of COVID. And it started with 8 universities, then it went to 10, 12, and now I think it's 15 universities that compete in term two and semester two every year. That's between the months of July and October. And UWA and Curtin Uni have been part of the University Basketball League since its inception. And Curtin Uni regularly win hosting the best atmosphere at UBL games, at their home games. There's a lot of funding for UBL from those universities. The universities are paying in excess of $50,000 per team, and they have to put men and women. It's $100,000 plus funding that the universities are providing. They get sponsors on board, they get all sorts of things. So I've lobbied Curtin Uni to encourage Unisport, so Unisport administer this, UBL, in semesters 2 every year for the last 5 years. I've encouraged Curtin Uni to push for a university futsal league in semester 1, in term 1. Same courts, obviously it's smaller than international. Not many have international courts. Similar concept. I don't know if it got much headway at Unisport, but I heard that they've gone with volleyball instead. So the UVL is either starting this year or next year, or I'm not sure when. And we just have to keep pushing. We have to keep pushing for the sport of futsal to get recognition, to get that professional feel. Because I'll just give you an example on UBL. The players don't have to pay to participate. They get flown across the country to play, to represent their university. The departments of the marketing, the media, etc., it's all done in-house by students studying at those universities. So it brings in a lot of people together to run these things. And attending a UBL game at Curtin Stadium, it's similar to attending an NBL game, Perth Wildcats. It's a similar atmosphere, it's a similar field, similar vibe, with professional coaches. The name escapes me. The best player to ever have played for Perth Wildcats, American import.
Ricky Grace.
Ricky Grace, thank you. Coaches at Curtin, the Curtin Carnabies in the UBL. So that Ricky wouldn't come cheap. So, they throw in a lot of resources for this. And it would be fantastic to see 10 or 15 universities competing nationally in a university futsal league. That might give us that impetus, that starting point for a national league, potentially. But home and away, everything is done really, really at a high standard for the UBL. It would be lovely to see that for futsal. As for me, the easiest and fastest avenue to getting a national futsal league, a university futsal league, and from what I hear from a lot of Brazilians, a lot of Malaysians in Australia, that the university league in Brazil is a very, very high level. The university league in Malaysia, I'm told by a lot of Malaysians here in Australia, is even a higher level than the professional league in Malaysia. It's a very, very high level. And you can get that in futsal in Australia as well. Just imagine how many top students, top players are students at Curtin Uni and at UWA. Those two unis have a lot of really, really strong futsal players that are students there. The same would be happening in universities all over the country. So that, for me, should be a push that administrators should be knocking on the door of Unisport and saying, futsal, fastest growing indoor sport in Southeast Asia. We have a lot of overseas students from Southeast Asia. I know students that picked Curtin Uni to study from overseas because we had won uni nationals and they assumed that we have a futsal structure as such. Full fee paying students that picked Curtin Uni. They had offers from 5 different universities.
Maybe they knew you were involved in the coaching, Fadi.
No. They just knew that, hey, they've won uni nationals, so they must have some sort of futsal culture at their university. And they picked Curtin as a result. and they still train with us. So we need a national league.
A national league.
We need a national league.
How fantastic would that be? Okay, well, that uni league could potentially be the impetus to get something started.
Hopefully.
That same magic wand you used, let's use it again. Where would you like to see Curtin Uni Football Club in the short, medium, and long term?
In terms of our football operations, I'd like to see us competing with UWA Netherlands and Mum FC in terms of registrations. Mum FC have 1,200 plus players. UWA Netherlands have 1,500 plus players, if I remember correctly. They're possibly the biggest club in WA in terms of participation numbers. And we're at 600 football players. I'd like to see us breaking that 1,000-player mark. In terms of our futsal operations, we have 100 plus players that we look after at the moment. And now that we have the court space, I think we can grow that to 200 and 300. So ultimately, I'd like to see us, in terms of community, having the largest number of futsal players playing out of Curtin Football Club in the whole state.
Okay, so every episode. And I know it's hard because I'm sure there are so many moments, but I always ask the guest to share with us one of their favourite futsal moments.
My favorite futsal moment.
It's hard. I know. There's
Has
so
to
many.
be- No. I have.
Oh, you have one?
I have one.
Oh,
I have
wow.
one.
Okay,
I have one.
I'm excited.
I have one. We traveled to Barcelona in 2018. We traveled a few times to attend the Barcelona futsal camps with United Futsal, with the massive support of L. Abrams and Rob Andrews from United Futsal. But one trip in particular, Jose, you weren't on that trip. This is the year before you came. We were fortunate enough to be there in Blanes at the same time as the UEFA Champions League for futsal semi-finals were on.
Yes, I missed that one.
And Rob Andrews organized buses to take us from Blanes to Zaragoza, where the semi-finals were running. It was a 4-hour bus ride. We got there in time to watch the semi-finals. So exciting. They had meals ready for us as well. It was such a well-organized trip. And it was the first time I'd seen a live match of that quality. I'd seen Barcelona play before at the Camp Nou futsal against, can't remember who, in a league game, but this was a higher level. This was very competitive. It was Barcelona Inter Movistar. So Inter Movistar are the Madrid team, sort of Atletico Madrid of futsal. And Inter Movistar had Ricardinho, the magical Ricardinho. Barcelona had their Brazilian target, Ferrao. It was a top match. And to cap it all off, Ricardinho was on the bus with us on the way back to Barcelona that night. He speaks a little bit of English too. So it was a fantastic experience. Watching a professional futsal game at that level live in a stadium packed with fans, 10,000 fans or maybe more, was a magical moment.
Sounds magical. I remember, hearing about that game. So well done. You were very fortunate to be there. And you mentioned Rob Andrews from United Futsal. He actually has Ricardinho working, I believe, as an ambassador, assisting his program. But he runs a great program in America, in Spain, in various countries. So well done. That's a great moment, Fadi. Well, my moment, I always try and, again, countless moments that I've enjoyed. And I try and keep them related to the episode and the guest. So I don't know if you remember, but we used to do the Friday turn up and plays at Pro Futsal in Bibra Lake.
The lunchtime
The
ones.
lunchtime.
Yeah.
Oh, I tell you what, I used to look forward to those. And for some reason, Fadi, we would always be put on different teams. You'd always be in goals. The opposite. And that I'll always look back with a great fondness of those moments that we, it was probably about an hour on a Friday afternoon. We'd go out there, and obviously whoever decided to turn up and play that particular Friday. So you get some good turnouts and sometimes not so good turnouts. But those sessions were fantastic. I really enjoyed, and I've got to say that's how I know you, because it was hard to score past you. You were not easy to score past. So I always remember those moments as something that, special times, weren't they?
Absolutely. Fantastic venue.
Playing on the blue courts.
The amazing blue courts, yes. Those towels are still somewhere, aren't they, Jose?
I know exactly where. I know exactly where they are. They're in storage. They're ready to go. So, Fadi, I'd like to thank you for coming in today. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been an honour having you here, sharing so much of your knowledge, your wisdom, your experience, and your passion for the game. So thank you for coming in, Fadi.
Pleasure, Jose. And again, I'm very impressed with your setup here. This is a professional podcaster's room, mate. Very, very impressed.
We've got a long way to go. Next step is get it to the point where we can film the sessions, but we are nowhere near that level. Oh, well, great having you in, like I mentioned. And of course, thank you to all our listeners for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We've got more great conversations coming your way, so stay tuned. Until next time,
Vamos!